Good morning, everyone. My name is Cassidy Bast, and I'm the Director of Career Development and Marketing for ReMax, Crest, and Masters. Today, we are doing our fourth episode of Outstanding Agents, Outstanding Results. And today, we have joining us Wayne Ryan. Wayne is the managing broker for one of our offices and has had a lot of success in the real estate industry. He was 15 years in the MLS Medallion Club and has sold over 1,000 homes. So let me just add you, Wayne, to the stream. Wayne, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Cassidy. Great to be here.
Wonderful. So Wayne, why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your experience in real estate?
Yeah, of course. So I've been licensed for just over 35 years, which sadly is probably more years than some of your listeners here. But anyway, the first, 25 years were as a salesperson, and then the last 10 or 11 years as a managing broker at ReMax Crest.
That's great. Well, you've been an awesome managing broker and have been, made yourself very available for the agents. So that's great. Tell me a little bit about what you feel has been your secret to success in selling real estate for all of those years.
Yeah, so, there's just so many things that go into being a good realtor. For me, the things that I really focused on was a strong drive to succeed and genuinely caring about my clients. I've been fortunate that empathy is something that I've always had lots of. And again, when people feel that you're looking out after their best interest, they tend to kind of let their guard down a little bit, and it just makes your job a lot easier. And they can really sense if you're kind of more in it for the money and you don't care about them, they do pick up on that. So again, it's something that, makes your job a lot easier.
Absolutely. And you sold in the Dunbar neighborhood, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I had a farm of about 4,000 houses. And so, I would reach out to those people about every 3 weeks or so. And it ends up that's where most of my business came from.
Yeah, that's great. So our office is really focused on collaboration and sharing. And so at our office meetings, as you know, we often invite some of our top agents to join us to share what's working for them in the business so that our other agents can learn and we can, all grow together. What is some of the best advice or tips that you've heard from these agents that has been shared with our group?
Yeah, there are just so many ways to succeed in this business. And when we have our top people that talk about what they do, you're going to hear some things that, oh, wow, I love that. You're going to hear some things that, oh, I could never do that. So it's just up to you to pick the things that kind of resonate with you and you think you can excel. So, for example, again, whether it be door knocking, whether it be sending videos to your social media group, whether it be specializing in open houses, you need to pick about the top 3 or 4 things. We find there's about 25 or 30 things that realtors do out there, but luckily you only have to pick, again, the top 3 or 4 things and really focus on those. So it's just something that, but remember, at the end of the day, it is a numbers game. So whatever you end up choosing, you need to be able to go out and reach out to those potential clients. So again, it's something that very important.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, staying in touch with your database. I remember we've done many top producer panels over the years. And one piece of advice that I thought was just so simple that has always stuck with me, one of our agents shared that, anytime he sells a place, he's always putting that client on a Paragon search afterwards with notifications of other properties that have sold that are similar to his clients in the building or in the neighborhood. And that's just, I think, a really easy tip to automate, some of your contact with your database and also provide valuable information to that homeowner, because I think every homeowner wants to know, oh, hey, my neighbor's house just went up on the market. What's that? I'm just curious, has my, property valuation gone up? What is that place selling for? So I know that was always kind of one of my favorite tips that I heard, and it's just something super easy that everyone can do.
Oh yeah, no, once you're a homeowner, you've got a real thirst to especially in Vancouver, it seems like more so than in other cities, that they want to know what's happening. And so people love that kind of, statistical information. So
That's right. So, Wayne, you teach our class on negotiating and presenting offers. What are some of the best tips you can give on that topic that you feel most agents could benefit from?
Yeah, well, you got to remember, we're not order takers. Again, we don't just wait for the client to say, "Yeah, I'm ready to write an offer." There's a lot of steps that go in before that. So when you're out with buyers and you sense that there's a property that this might work for them, you've got to be able to ask those leading questions. Do you see yourself living here? Gee, this property seems to check off a lot of the boxes on our list. Or, gee, I wonder, how flexible the seller might be on price. You need to be able to introduce those kinds of things because that's the lead up to writing an offer. So again, you need to be, comfortable in asking those questions. And once you've either written the offer or you're about to write the offer, you need to be able to have the confidence to guide them. So for example, if somebody wants to write a lowball offer, you might say, you know what, that could come back and backfire on us. I know in my case, as I mentioned, I was more of a listing agent. And I remember many times lowball offers would come in and the sellers would say, I'm not only not going to counter this offer, I don't want to sell to these people. I remember one in particular, the people actually came all the way up to full price. The seller said, no, we're not selling to you. So just know that there can be a downside to that. So again, or if you're in a multiple offer situation, and again, you feel the property's right for them, to be able to have the confidence to say, look, we're going to need to go maybe 50, 80, 100,000 over list. And so again, those kinds of things are important. I remember, again, when I was selling, and a little game I used to play when I was the listing agent in a multiple offer situation. So we've got, 4, 6 offers coming in. Before I knew the prices, I would look at who the agents are that are writing the offers. And I would play a little game and try to pick who I thought was going to be the winning realtor. And I had a very high percentage of success because those top realtors, they just have more clout, more confidence, as I mentioned, with their buyers. So again, very important.
Yeah, those are great tips. And I was kind of looking back through some of the negotiation tips that I've seen over the years. And Deb, our former owner and CEO, shared a tip. I've got a Facebook group called Learn from the Leaders, which shares all sorts of tips for the business. And it was a really simple one. It was, if you're presenting an offer and let's say your clients are not willing to go above a certain dollar amount, it's so important to give a reason, and it really doesn't matter what that reason is. So they've actually done studies that if you just say my clients aren't going to go above this price, and if you leave it at that, compliance on that is actually only about 40%. And that could be in any situation, not just presenting offers, just in life situations. You're wanting to cut in front of a line because you're in a rush or something like that. But if you give a reason, you're looking at 97 or increasing compliance to 97%. And if it's a good reason, it's 98%. So it actually doesn't even really matter what the reason is, but just giving a reason on that is a really good, I think, negotiation tip. And that was actually something that Deb had picked up from Suze Cummings. Now, Suze is the director of the Real Estate Negotiation Institute. And since we're on the topic of negotiations, I just thought I'd let everyone know that she does some excellent negotiation courses. If anyone's looking at sharpening their skills on this topic, she has a 3-part or a 3-level certified negotiation expert certificate course, and she's got level 1, which she recommends everyone does. There's one that's sold out in January and in December, but there's one coming up at the end of January 26th to 29th, if anyone's interested in improving their skills. So it's 4 days of doing kind of a couple hours work on negotiation. And then she's got some upcoming sessions for her level 2 and her level 3. So I thought I'd just add that in there because it's an important skill to have in this business.
Well, and Suze, as you know, I've taken several of Suze's courses. She's very good. And you just sort of triggered something in me. The number of time you're in negotiation with a client, I would find myself saying, Mr. Client, whether I'm on the buying side or the listing side, I would say, don't draw a line in the sand, because the number of times people say, no, I'm only going up to this number, and in many cases, for literally $10,000 more, they might have been able to get that property. So get people away from that fixed number in their mind, because often it's like running a marathon. You've got 100 more yards. You're almost there, kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah. So Wayne, you also teach our class on preparing and presenting CMAs. What would you say are some considerations of a CMA that are often missed?
Well, I mean, for starters, I found what I did personally, as opposed to some of my competitors, I would always do my CMAs in a two-part as opposed to a one-part. So instead of going over to the client, you're meeting them for the first time, you're seeing the property for the first time, and you're bringing the comparables. I would divide that into two. So I would go over the first time, I would meet with them, I would make notes on the property, walk around the property. I'm getting to know them, but most importantly, I'm establishing rapport. And I had a huge advantage over my competitors that just went out there the one time. I could find out motivation. Always try to find out in that first visit what number they're thinking. And sometimes you have to ask a couple of times, but when you go back for that presentation, if you know the number in their mind, it makes it a lot easier than going in blind. So again, I found that was very important. But the other thing is, remember, with a listing contract, we're asking people to sign a listing agreement for 2 months, 6 months, a year, at the time when we often hardly know them. And so again, it's something that having that second visit just makes a big difference. The other thing, especially for the newer agents, is you want to make sure you have a smooth presentation. And that means practice, practice, practice. Do some role playing with some of the other newer agents. You're going to be quite nervous the first few times, but you have to be able to show the confidence. And those questions that are commonly asked, you need to know the answers. If a client asks you, well, what about this? Oh, I'm going to have to check on that. Well, you know what? 1 or 2 is fine, but if there's 3 or 4 or 5 questions you don't know the answers to, they're not going to have that confidence in you. So again, you definitely want to make sure you know that information. So now the other thing is, like I mentioned in the other part, you need to be comfortable asking for the business. So, Mr. Seller, how does this all sound? Are you ready to get started? Or one that I used to like using is deadlines. If we get started with the paperwork tonight, we can meet the real estate board deadline for agent opens, or whatever it happens to be. There's always some deadline you can come up with. And often if people are on the fence, that may be just enough to nudge them over the line. But by the way, don't be too unhappy or disappointed if you don't get the listing the night of your presentation, because I found, even as a big listing agent in my Dunbar farm where I took most of the business, I found probably only maybe 20-25% signed that night. Most of the people would get back to you. Okay, so I found that important.
And I know something you always did was, when you did miss out on that listing, I'm sure the odd time, you would always check in back with them and say, hey, what was the difference that made you go with XYZ agent over me? Is that right?
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, Cassidy, because you know what? That kind of constructive feedback is so important. And when you get that call, you know what, Wayne, I'm sorry, we're going with another realtor. It's like a shot in the heart, because you thought things went so well. But take that opportunity to say, look, I really do wish you the best. But was there something I could have done a little differently? And often they'll say, the first go around, they'll say, oh, no, you were great. Well, you know what? And thank you for saying that. But was there something I could have done a little differently? And, often they will say something. I remember a listing that I lost out on. These are people I knew very well. In fact, they promised me the listing, did the presentation. They had a land value only property. And so when I went through the property, I didn't make a big deal about the house, because we all knew it was going to get torn down. But at the end of the day, they listed with another agent. And when he called me, I said, oh my God. And what was the difference? And they said, the other agent made a big deal about our home, even though we all knew it was land value. So I thought, you know what? I'm never going to make that mistake again. So take that opportunity to learn what you might be able to, fix next time.
Yeah, that's right. And kind of going back to, advice for newer agents, and I think for any agent, even as a reminder, is anyone that you know that owns a house, anyone in your database, when you're just getting started, just offering to do a free CMA for them. And that can be just such a great point of practice, a really good reason to get in touch and in front of your database to provide value, even if they're not looking at, selling in the, in the near future, anything like that, just getting an update on the value of their home. And so, if you think you're a new agent, maybe, 50 people, maybe, 100 people, are in your database as you're getting started out, that going through that list and offering that as an added value service, I think you'll get really good by the time you go through and you do a whole bunch of those too.
Oh, yeah. Or the other thing, next month in January, the BC assessments come out for the new year. And often if people feel their assessment is too high, you can make an offer. Look, if you're not happy, and this is in your marketing, if you're not happy, give me a call. I'll check out the value. And because there is the odd time where the assessment comes in too high, they can appeal it, and all of a sudden they get a little bit of a reduction in their taxes. So that's a great thing to do as well.
Yeah, great tip, great advice. We're always looking for ways that we can reach out and add value. So that's great. Talk to me about what are some of the mistakes that you often see agents making in their business that we can learn from here today.
I find with the biggest thing I find is they don't spend as much time listening to the client's needs as they should. In many cases, there's a big body of information that we as realtors want to convey to these buyers. And again, you're sometimes so focused on that you don't listen to what's important to them. The number of times, again, when I was selling, I would hear people would call me and say, I've been working with this realtor. They haven't been showing us the stuff we wanted. And all of a sudden, before I got them in my car, I would have a meeting. You go over, how our business works, how we're paid, and that kind of thing. But most importantly, to find out what they're looking for. And I found a big thing was on the price. So, for example, they may say, we can go up to 800,000, and I would sometimes find I'm showing the properties that really fit their needs, and they're not biting. And so again, I find out afterwards that, well, really, although I told you 800, really anything over 750 becomes a problem. So when they give you a price, explore a little bit further and just say, look, I realize you can go up to 8 or whatever their number, but is that an area you're comfortable in? And often they'll say, well, really 750. So again, those are things that just listening to them, makes a very big difference. The other thing I see is agents giving up too quickly. I remember when I was selling, I would sometimes have buyers that would take, 3, 4, 5 months, and believe me, the temptation was just to drop them. But all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, we find something, and bingo, we're into a contract. So don't give up too easily on those clients that are a little slower to decide.
Yeah, great points. What are some of the most important, would you say, best practices in an agent's business that can be often overlooked?
I find the biggest thing is, and this is the part where realtors say, oh God, I don't want to hear this, but you really do need to plan out your week. For me, on Sunday night, I would take about 30 minutes to sort of map out my upcoming week, because what happens is if you wake up on a Tuesday morning and you've got nothing on your agenda, you're going to float through that day. You're not going to be productive. You're just kind of going to go with the wind. Whereas if you plan things that you're going to do, I just find it makes a big difference. Now, something you haven't talked about, but I'm sure you're planning to, is Janet Miller has an upcoming business planning session. I'll let you share the details on that, but it's a 2-part. It starts on Monday, and she is wonderful. So again, I'd really, really recommend that you guys, that all the people listening, attend that. But the other thing you need to do, and again, this is hard, but you've got to spend 30 to 60 minutes a day on your lead generation. So whatever you've decided to do, whether it be calling, whether it be you want to take that time, because I find if you don't do that, our business tends to be like this. All of a sudden you've got stuff, you're up here, things are happening, you're writing offers, everything's great, you're doing no lead generation. All of a sudden you wake up one Monday morning, you've got no listings, no buyers, you're kind of starting at the beginning. Because when you reach out to people, you're talking to today, that may be business that you get 4 months from now. So I find for the agents that do the lead generation, instead of this, it's this. They even out their days. So Like for example, if you reached out to all the people in your sphere of influence, you don't have anybody, you might want to consider cold calling. And I know it sounds, oh God, I hate cold calling, but you had Nancy Che on last week, and I was involved in a coaching group with her last year. And I know Nancy does a lot of cold calling, and that's how she gets a lot of her business. So again, it's something that and again, a lot of agents may not be aware that the company spends $12,000 a year keeping our do not call list active. So again, the last thing you want to be doing is calling people that are on that do not call list, because they are handing out penalties. But the company charges those agents $40 a month, and basically you've got the opportunity to now be calling the right people. So again, I find that pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just to add on to a few of the things that you mentioned, I think consistency is one of the most important factors, in success. And so Janet Miller, Coach Janet, as we call her, she has a practice that she, teaches her clients, and it's to figure out what your no matter whats are. So what are you ready to commit to doing consistently, no matter what, no matter how crazy your day is or whatever. And I think that that's a good best practice to put into place, whether it's no matter what, I'm going to reach out to 5 people a day, or maybe it's just 3 people a day. And hey, that's 3 people more than the 0 that you would have done if you didn't kind of set that bar for yourself. Yeah.
And Cassidy, we're all such procrastinators. The toughest call is the first one. Once you've made that first call, then the others go easily. But, oh, I've got a text I've got to return, I've got a call, and all of a sudden you put it off. So put that in your plan, maybe from 10 to 11 in the morning, or whatever time works for you, and make sure you look at that as an appointment. And if you get in that habit, believe me, it pays huge dividends.
It's so true. And the hardest part of starting is just picking up that phone and just getting started. It's the same thing for anything. Going to the gym, it's just getting to the gym. Once you're there, it's easy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's right.
Great tip. And I'll just add on as well about our business planning session. If any of you are watching and you would like to join in on that, I'd be happy to share with you the Zoom link. There are a few things that we're getting our agents to prepare ahead of time in terms of where their deals have come from, whether they're, how many deals they've done with buyers, with sellers, a little bit of analysis work that we're going to get our agents to plug into a spreadsheet and do some projections. And if you're not able to make it Monday, it's this Monday afternoon at 2:00. The session is going to be recorded. So I would be happy to share that recording upon request. And then, like you said, Wayne, we've got our part 2 of that session is happening January 4th. And then I've got a whole bunch of resources too on goal setting. We've also shared with our agents the simple Jared James business plan. So if anyone here is watching and needs a little bit of guidance on that, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction.
Great. And this is such a great time of year because it's quieting down a little bit. It's a great time for you to take a look at your business and really plan where you want to go.
Exactly. So can you tell me what you feel separates an average agent from an outstanding agent?
Yeah, I find the top agents, they've got more drive, they're better organized, and they run their operation like a business. We all know we're independent contractors, but I find too many agents, they think of themselves as salespeople, and they don't run it like a business. So for those top people, because they've got more coming through the pipeline, they can be more selective as to who they work with. If you don't have much on the go, you may be working with a client that you really don't like, but you think, oh my goodness, I've already invested too much time, I can't drop this person. That's not a fun position to be in. So once you expand that pipeline, you've got more coming in. Again, you can be more selective. So it's just something that, and because they're more confident, as I mentioned earlier, the clients tend to follow their directions, their guidance a little bit more than the not so strong agents. So you've got an offer, Mr. Seller. This is a great offer. I recommend you accept it. You're a client, you've got confidence in your realtor, you're going to maybe follow that advice. Whereas if maybe they don't have the same confidence in their realtor, they may, I know what I'm going to do here. Or again, for that buyer, it's a multiple offer situation. You may say, look, I would really recommend you pay 80,000 over the list price. You need to, but again, they're much more likely to follow that advice if they've got that confidence in you.
That's so important. And lastly, what impact has the ReMax brand had on your business, and why do you feel it's a place that helps agents be more successful?
Yeah, so when I started here at Crest Realty, at 16th and McDonald, we were just like many independent brokerages. Everything was fine. It worked out, and it was many years later that we actually acquired the ReMax franchise. And I found when that happened, it was kind of like a light got turned on, and all of a sudden, you just had more exposure. You were just not in the limelight, but just more exposure. And I find where it makes a big difference for people that they're going to go. You could go to Timbuktu Realty, they're going to follow you. But for people that maybe you've been referred to, for people you don't know that well, maybe people in an open house, it just gives you credibility like you've never had before. So I found that worked really well. And again, we dominate in every market that we work in. So again, it's nice to be able to show the clients the stats. And the one I always like the most is the productivity per agent. And again, these are MLS stats. These aren't ReMax stats. So again, I just find it just makes your life easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know you've shared with me before, in your business going into multiple offers and things like that, it did give you a leg up in the fact that, a client might just say, hey, all of these agents that I interviewed, these 3 agents, they were all great. I really liked them all. Let's just go with the ReMax agents. So, we do find that it tilts the scales in your favor, and it gives you an advantage in that way.
Well, Cassie, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I just think over the years when someone's joined us maybe from Sutton Group and they're an established realtor, and basically the comment I get from them 6 months with us or later, they'll say, you know what, I'm getting a higher percentage of my listing presentations than I was getting before. And I remember personally the number of times somebody would call and maybe they talk to 3 or 4 agents and they say, you know what, you were all great. It's so hard to make a decision, but I'm going with you because I know the ReMax name. And again, that $282 that we all pay every month, it's an indirect marketing cost, but it pays dividends. And that's why our top agents, they don't go somewhere else. They stay with ReMax because even though they're established, they're going to be great wherever they are, but they know they'll do better under that ReMax brand.
That's great. And of course, we've got so many different tools and resources to support an agent, help them be more productive and run things more efficiently. Well, Wayne, thank you so much. You are a wealth of information. For those of you watching, we are going to be taking a little bit of a break over the Christmas holidays, but we are going to be starting back up again the first Thursday of January 7th. So check out our next sessions as we move on into the new year. And once again, thanks, Wayne, and look forward to seeing you soon.
And Cassie, I just want to end by saying one thing. This is the time of year where often people get on a plane, they go somewhere warm, or they go back and visit family. But you know what? Because the traveling aspect of it, you need to have a little bit of time to unwind. There's nothing worse, and I hear this some Januaries, people are coming back and they say, I don't feel I'm ready to take on the new market. I feel I'm just not ready. So make sure you take some time for yourself to just unwind and connect with family, all that kind of stuff, even though maybe you're not going to be on a beach in Hawaii or whatever.
That's so important. Yeah, burnout can be very real, and it's been a tough year for all of us. So yeah, taking that time to just step back and relax is an important piece of self-care that does really end up adding to your business at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Thanks, Cassidy. Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye.